I have to admit, I'm actually doing a bit of a shoulder stretch right now before we jump in.
Oh, yeah, you got to get that stretch in.
Right. Just reaching for my water glass, trying to wake up a bit. Have you managed to get any sort of like morning wellness routine in today, or are you just running on coffee?
Well, a bit of both, honestly. I did prioritize a massive glass of water first thing just to kind of clear the mental fog, but there is definitely a very strong cup of coffee sitting right next to me.
Nice.
It's all about balance, right?
Yeah,
But, asking that question about how I started my day, that's actually the perfect entry point for what we are exploring today.
it really is. And welcome to you, the listener, to the Copilot podcast studio. We are so glad you're joining us for today's deep dive. Because
Right.
what if I told you that the secret to truly connecting with native English speakers isn't, memorizing a massive textbook of complex grammar,
Right.
but simply knowing how to talk about that morning glass of water or that stretching routine I was just doing?
Yeah, that is the core mission of our material today. We are looking at a topic that applies to literally every human being on Earth, which is maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Everybody has a body.
Exactly. But for you, as an intermediate English learner, we are using this topic as a masterclass in conversation.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why is daily health the ultimate cheat code for language learners?
Hmm.
Because honestly, when I think about small talk in a new language, the first thing that always comes to mind is the weather. Like,
Huh.
it is raining or it is sunny.
Yeah, the weather is safe, but it's a dead end.
Totally.
Once you agree that it's raining, where does the conversation even go? Health and daily routines, on the other hand, they're the great equalizers. Everyone tries to find energy. Everyone struggles with getting enough sleep.
Oh, definitely.
When you ask someone about their daily habits, you instantly bypass that superficial layer, and hit a shared human experience.
You're getting right into the rhythm of their actual life. But, I mean, having the desire to make that connection isn't really enough. We need the raw ingredients first.
The vocabulary.
Exactly. Looking at our sources, we have a foundation of specific vocabulary words that English speakers use constantly when talking about this stuff. Let's look at the first two, balanced diet and hydration.
These are your fundamental kind of fuel concepts.
Huh.
What's fascinating here is that it isn't just about the dictionary definition, it's the cultural nuance.
Right.
So balanced diet means eating a variety of healthy foods, sure, but notice the word balanced. It doesn't mean perfect.
Right. It implies a scale. If someone says, I eat good food, it's a bit vague, almost childlike, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you say, I focus on a balanced diet, you're communicating maturity. You're saying you understand that you need vegetables, but, you also occasionally eat a piece of cake, and that is part of the balance.
It shows you understand nuance, which is a hallmark of fluency. And then we have hydration. This simply means drinking enough water. But think about the shift here.
Okay.
Most language learners know the verb to drink and the noun water.
But hold on, I have to ask. Doesn't using a word like hydration run the risk of sounding a bit, I don't know, clinical, like you're a doctor analyzing someone in a hospital rather than just a person hanging out in a coffee shop?
Well, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay.
But today, the cultural context of that word has completely changed. Hydration has become an everyday lifestyle term. When you say, I am focusing on my hydration, you're taking a basic automatic biological function, just drinking because you're thirsty,
Right.
and turning it into an intentional health choice. It sounds proactive.
So you aren't just reacting to thirst, you actually have a plan. I see that. It elevates the English.
Okay, so moving from the fuel to the engine of the body, our sources highlight physical activity and routine. I actually find physical activity to be such a strategic phrase for a language learner, much more so than the word exercise.
Really? Why is that?
Because exercise comes with so much baggage. If a native speaker asks you, do you exercise? And you're someone who just likes to, garden or take your dog for a walk, you might freeze.
Oh, that's true. You might think, well, I don't go to the gym and lift heavy weights, so maybe I shouldn't say yes. It feels intimidating.
That is a very real barrier. Physical activity operates as a brilliant umbrella term. It covers marathon runners, but it also covers someone just taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
Exactly.
It gives you, as the speaker, a much wider, safer space to describe your life without feeling like you are exaggerating.
Yeah, completely. And doing that activity regularly brings us to routine, which is just a sequence of actions you follow. I look at building a routine as being essentially the same as building muscle memory,
Yeah.
Not just for your body, but for your mouth.
I love that analogy.
Right. Because you can't just look at the word hydration on a flashcard once and expect your brain to find it in the middle of a fast-paced conversation. You have to build a routine of actually speaking it out loud.
Language acquisition relies entirely on that repetition. You're basically paving a path in your mind. The more you use a word, the smoother that road becomes. If you don't build a routine, you are constantly hacking your way through a linguistic jungle every time you try to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, the final core vocabulary concept is wellness. Our source defines it as the state of being in good health. But to be honest, I am genuinely skeptical about this one.
Oh,
Isn't wellness just a trendy buzzword? It feels like something plastered on the window of an expensive spa or, used to sell $20 green juices. Does it actually mean anything different than the word health?
it has absolutely been heavily commercialized, so your skepticism is completely justified there. But conceptually, wellness does serve a very distinct, necessary purpose in modern English.
Okay, how so?
Think about how we use the word health. It is often deeply tied to the medical system. You go to a doctor for your health. Health is frequently defined as simply the absence of a disease.
So if I don't have the flu, I am in good health.
Precisely. But wellness is the active, holistic pursuit of a good lifestyle. It isn't just physical. Wellness encompasses your mental clarity, your emotional stability, how you manage your stress at work, even your sleep quality. When you tell an English speaker you are interested in wellness, you are signaling that you care about your whole self, not just your blood pressure.
That completely flips my perspective on the word.
Okay.
So health is the baseline you hope for, but wellness is the active pursuit.
Exactly.
Okay, but having these 5 words, balanced diet, hydration, physical activity, routine, and wellness, having them in isolation is like having a bunch of raw ingredients sitting on a kitchen counter. You can't just hand someone a raw potato. You have to cook it into a sentence.
Right. Vocabulary without structure doesn't create connection. You need the phrases to actually deliver the meaning.
And our sources give us some incredibly useful foundational phrases for this. But I don't want to just look at the grammar here. I want to look at them as social tools. Take the first phrase, I try to maintain a balanced diet.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the brilliance of this phrase is entirely contained in the words, I try to.
Yes, because if you're sitting at a lunch table with new English-speaking colleagues and you confidently say, I maintain a perfect diet, the conversation instantly dies.
It really does. People feel judged.
Right. They feel intimidated by you.
It sounds rigid and, frankly, arrogant. But saying, I try to, is an invitation for camaraderie. You are showing effort and good intentions, but you are deliberately leaving room for your own imperfection.
Yeah.
The person listening immediately thinks, oh, me too. It's so hard to eat well during the work week, isn't it? You've built a bridge just by admitting you aren't perfect.
It softens the statement to make it deeply social. Now, the second phrase operates a bit differently. It's staying hydrated is very important to me.
Yeah.
There is something about starting a sentence with an action word ending in ing that makes an intermediate learner sound incredibly advanced.
Yeah, that's a gerund. You're taking an action, staying hydrated, and packing it into a box so it functions as a noun, a thing. It is a structure native speakers use constantly. Instead of saying the simpler, I think it is important to stay hydrated, you make the concept itself the star of the sentence. Staying hydrated is very important to me. It just sounds smooth, authoritative, and very natural.
And it sounds like a core value, not just a passing thought.
Exactly.
The third phrase is, I make sure to get at least 30 minutes of physical activity daily. The operative phrase here is make sure to.
It implies control over chaos. We all have busy lives, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you say, I make sure to, you're telling the listener, even though my day is crazy, I prioritize this. It tells them about your discipline and your values without you having to explicitly brag about them.
Now, this fourth phrase is arguably the most important one in our entire source material. How do you stay healthy during a busy week? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I agree.
When you are practicing a new language, conversation can feel terrifying because you feel this immense pressure to perform. If someone asks you, do you eat vegetables? You say yes. That is a yes or no question. It's like pointing at a wall. The conversation just stops.
Yeah. Yes and no questions are conversational dead ends.
Exactly. But asking, how do you stay healthy during a busy week is like opening a door and handing them the keys to a car. It is an open-ended invitation.
It forces the other person to tell a story or share an opinion, and for you, the language learner, this is your best strategic move. It
Yes.
takes the spotlight entirely off of your grammar and puts it onto the native speaker. You get to practice your active listening, pick up new vocabulary from their answer, and, just give yourself a break from constructing sentences.
People generally love to talk about their own lives and their own strategies for surviving a busy work week. You're giving them a stage, and people appreciate the person who gives them the stage.
They really do.
The final phrase from our source is a fantastic idiom. Small changes can lead to big results.
This is your conversational exit strategy, or your summary statement.
Right. If the dialogue starts to slow down, or someone just finished a really long story about how they started walking 10 minutes a day, you could just nod thoughtfully and say, well, small changes can lead to big results.
It demonstrates agreement, it sounds wise, and it provides a very natural, positive way to wrap up a thought. It is universally applicable, whether they're talking about diet, exercise, or, frankly, learning English vocabulary.
Small daily vocabulary changes definitely lead to big fluency results. Okay, so we have the vocabulary and we have the structural phrases. But knowing the grammar isn't enough to make a real human connection, is it?
No, not at all.
If you just memorize these phrases and recite them with perfect pronunciation, you're going to sound like an audio textbook.
You'll sound accurate, sure, but you won't sound authentic. And authenticity is where fluency actually lives.
Our sources provide 3 practical tips for breaking out of that textbook mold. The first is using frequency adverbs, words like always, usually, and rarely. I don't look at these as grammar rules. I look at them as giving your language texture.
Texture is the perfect word for it. A sentence like, I eat fast food is flat. The listener doesn't know if you mean once a year or every single night.
Right.
But when you add the texture, I rarely eat fast food, or I usually eat fast food when I'm stressed, you're painting a much clearer, more detailed picture of your reality.
The second tip is to share personal experiences. And the third is to actively ask others for their health tips. Now, looking at these tips together, so what does this all mean? I want to throw a theory at you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Do you think that intermediate English learners actually sabotage their own conversations because they're trying so hard to be grammatically perfect?
Oh, without a doubt. This raises an important question about the psychology of language learning. It often involves a massive fear of making a mistake. So, learners strip all the personality out of their sentences. They stick to very safe, boring structures because they know they won't get the verb tense wrong. They basically put themselves on a pedestal of trying to sound perfect.
But native speakers don't actually care about perfect prepositions, do they? They want a human connection, not a grammar exam.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of vulnerability becomes your greatest asset. Let's look at the acoustic tuning of a room. Grammar builds the walls, but vulnerability stops the echo and makes the room feel warm.
I love that.
Let's take that word rarely. If you use your English to admit a struggle, if you say, honestly, I know I should focus on wellness, but I rarely get enough sleep, you're being deeply vulnerable.
You're showing a flaw in a second language. That takes courage.
It does, but the payoff is immense. Admitting that you struggle with a habit instantly disarms the other person. It changes the dynamic from a stressful, performative language interaction into 2 human beings just commiserating over how exhausting life can be.
Right.
Authentic connections are built on those shared imperfections.
That is so freeing. To realize that your honest admission of a bad habit can actually make you a better, more engaging conversationalist in English. It removes so much pressure.
It really does.
If you're listening right now and you've been agonizing over getting every single word perfect, let this be your permission to just speak honestly. Use the word rarely. Admit that maintaining your routine is tough. Ask for advice.
It marks the transition from reciting lines from a script to improvising a real, living conversation.
We have covered some vital territory today. We explored the core vocabulary, the structural phrases, and the underlying psychology of being vulnerable and authentic. Now it's time to bring all of this together into an actionable challenge.
Because understanding a concept is only half the battle. You have to apply it to make it stick.
Exactly. Our source material lays out a very specific practice exercise, and we want you, the listener, to try this today. The challenge is to describe one healthy habit you have, using exactly 3 sentences.
It's a beautifully constrained exercise.
It is. Sentence 1, what the habit is. Sentence 2, why you do it. Sentence 3, how it makes you feel. You are moving from a simple action to a motivation, and finally landing on an emotion. A complete mini story.
Yeah.
Let's run through an example so you can hear what this sounds like in practice. I'll give it a
All
shot.
right, let's hear it.
Okay, here we go. Sentence 1, the habit. I try to go for a brisk walk every evening after dinner. Sentence 2, the why. I make sure to do this because it helps me mentally disconnect from my work computer. Sentence 3, the feeling. Staying active in the evening usually makes me feel much more relaxed before I go to sleep.
Notice how natural that flowed. You utilized the vulnerable phrase, I try to. You used, I make sure to show priority, the gerund structure, staying active, and the frequency adverb, usually.
Yeah,
You hit all the technical marks, but it just sounded like a person sharing their evening routine.
thank you. It does force you to weave the concepts together.
Yeah.
All right, your turn.
Okay, let's see. Sentence 1. I always start my day focused on hydration by drinking a large glass of water. Sentence 2. I do this because I believe small changes in the morning can lead to big results for my energy later on. Sentence 3. Maintaining this routine makes me feel clear-headed and ready to tackle the day.
Perfect. You incorporated hydration, routine, and that great summary idiom, small changes can lead to big results. So to you listening, that is your mission. 3 sentences. Write them down on your phone, practice saying them out loud while you are cooking dinner, or even better, open that conversational door with an English speaker today.
The structure provides a safe framework, but the experience you plug into it will be entirely your own.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to turn over in your mind. We have spent this entire time talking about how to use English words to describe your health habits to other people. But consider this. How might the specific English words you choose actually shape your own mindset toward those habits?
Ah, the psychological feedback loop of language.
Yes. Think about it. Does saying out loud to yourself, I try to exercise, feel fundamentally different to your brain than saying, I always exercise?
It definitely does.
Right. When you start using the word wellness instead of just health, does it subtly change the way you view your morning stretching routine? The language we use doesn't just act as a mirror describing our reality. It often acts as the hammer that constructs it.
That is profound. The vocabulary you choose to internalize eventually becomes the reality you experience.
So pay attention to the words you're choosing, not just for the sake of improving your English fluency, but for the sake of your own mindset.
Well, we have thoroughly unpacked this material today. Thank you so much for joining us in the Copilot podcast studio. We hope you walk away from this deep dive feeling equipped, confident, and ready to make some real connections. Until next time, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and keep practicing your English.